everybody. Happy Monday. Hey, Carrie, how are
Hello.
you?
Good. How are you? Happy Monday, guys.
Happy Monday. So, you guys, this morning, just a reminder, we are live streaming in EXP Workplace. We're live streaming in YouTube. Make sure that you are liking and subscribing so that you get that notification every Monday, Wednesday, Friday when we come live. And we're also in EXP World. So, there's lots of opportunities in different places to learn, collaborate, listen, stay engaged. And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. Carrie and I wanted to specifically talk about agent attraction, and we wanted to talk about how to master the skills required to attract the right people on your bus or on your team or in your department or in your community. What does that look like? And really, where should you begin? So I wanted to kick it off, Carrie, with this quote that I found. I think I found it in the Buddha and the Badass book. But the quote is from Neale Donald Walsch, and it's this. It's, your life is not about you. Rather, it's about the lives of every single person you touch. And I absolutely love that, especially when we're talking about attraction and when we talk about attracting people to us. Because Carrie, I know you agree with me, every conversation that we have, every opportunity that we have to help someone else grow, we're not just impacting that person, but we're really impacting all of the people that they touch in their lives, right? So it's like a domino effect, and I thought it was a great way to start this morning, and especially your week, thinking about everyone that you're going to impact.
That's awesome. And that's why we use the word attraction versus recruiting. I mean, quite frankly, we all know it's the same thing, but it's not. It's just about the way you think about what you're doing. It's not just to bring all the people in just for your sake. It's to bring people into your life so that you can impact it and then they can impact more people. It's really a ripple effect of purpose, if you will. And I think when you start thinking about it that way, you start becoming the version of yourself that has the ability to impact other people in a great way. And then that's what actually attracts the people. So sometimes it's just about starting with what it is that you're going to show up as and how you're going to impact people. And then the byproduct of that actually is that you attract people. Sometimes we try to start with attracting before we start being or figuring out how we can impact, how we can help, how we can better the lives and businesses of others. That doesn't usually work out too well. So if you've been trying to attract talent to your organization, to your department, to your revenue share organization, or maybe to a team, if you're someone that's not even with EXP, maybe it's to your brokerage or to your company. At the end of the day, if you've had struggles with this, it might be that you're just thinking about it backwards. So working on yourself as a leader and someone who can actually impact other people first is what's going to be the first domino in that agent attraction, at least in my humble opinion.
Yeah. And here's the exciting thing. When we're talking about attracting people or the right people, not just people, but we want to talk about the right people. When we're talking about attracting the right people to your revenue share here at EXP, that's what we're going to be focusing on today. We're going to hone in, we're going to get really specific, because Carrie and I want to give you the resources and the tools so that you have this in front of you when we're having high level conversations and we're trying to attract talent to our organization. So the very first thing that Carrie and I recommend that you do when you're talking about EXP is, we know success leaves clues. You guys, you do not have to reinvent the wheel. We want you to first get involved in conversation with people who are doing this at a high level and they are successful. So the number one thing that we want you to start doing is level up your skills around understanding what the EXP mission, vision, and values are to the culture and the organization of EXP, and be able to explain what value EXP brings to someone's life. So how do we do that? Okay. Yes, you can go on the EXP website and there's a whole about section that's so super helpful. Understand that language, understand the vocabulary that they're using. What are EXP values and what's the overall mission that EXP is trying to achieve? What's the impact that EXP is trying to have on your life and the lives of agents coming in? Not just agents, but also salaried employees as well. Mm-hmm. So the first tool that we want to tell you about is making sure that you guys use the EXP guide. If you're not using this in attraction conversations, start doing it. I'm going to copy and paste this link into into Workplace. So you'll have that, but the website is explore.exprealty.com. Explore.exprealty.com. Carrie, you actually use this in a templated email to everyone you're having conversations with, because oh my gosh, there's so many good tools on this website, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is just a really easy to read, kind of numbered out explanation of EXP. And so if you're having a hard time explaining it, first and foremost, read this as many times as you need to so that you understand it for your own business and your own life. But it is a really great follow-up if you have conversations with somebody who is exploring EXP, so that they can go and kind of do a little bit more due diligence or follow up on some of the things that you've chatted with them about. By the way, if you forget or don't find this in Workplace, if you just go to your expenterprise.com, which is your dashboard, and if you haven't gone there, there's lots of cool things there. So please do it and check it out. You can see everything going on with your business. There's a business dashboard. You can see if you're capped, at what percentage are you almost there? What is your cap reset date? You can look at all your transactions. You can see if you're up or down from last year, and by what percentage. And then there's tons and tons of resources and tools when it comes to EXP, your technology, becoming a mentor, your whole entire marketing suite, a bunch of things. And it's interesting, Haley, that we talked to a lot of people who've been here for a while and they haven't even actually gone into their own dashboard and looked through it. But in your dashboard, the EXP Explore guide is there for you. Super easy. You can just click it. It will take you right to the site. So this is a really important resource. And really, quite frankly, your entire dashboard is a great resource. And when you're talking to people, instead of just talking with them about it, it would be my suggestion that you actually share your Zoom screen, or if you're sitting next to them, and actually go into some of these technologies and show them, because it's a lot easier to show somebody something than it is to try to explain it. And from even a cultural perspective, if you can go into some of the groups that you're part of in Workplace, for an example, if you can show some of the trainings that happen, it's so much easier to show a culture than it is to try to explain one. And that's where I think some of us fall short, is that we get very excited about it because we take advantage of it. But it's very difficult for somebody to really be able to even imagine a certain culture if they've never been part of something like that.
Yeah.
I talked to somebody from a different company, a more traditional firm, the other day, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, you guys told me all the time about the collaboration and all of the things." And it was really just kind of like, I didn't get it because I'd never experienced it. It just didn't really, it was like, oh, cool. But there was no impact. There was really no feeling attached to it because I'd never experienced that myself. And then now that I'm here, I'm like, oh my gosh, now I know what you're talking about. And what was really fascinating, which I think is a good point for you guys, is she didn't actually realize how not collaborative her environment was until she got out of it and came into this one. And then she's like, oh my gosh, my environment was so isolating and I didn't even know.
Right.
So the thing is, we can't explain things to people. They don't know what they don't know. And when we try to explain it and they've never experienced it, it's a really difficult thing to actually connect the dots. So that's just my 2 cents on using the EXP guide.
Absolutely. And so that actually is a great segue into the second part of leveling up your skills when talking about EXP, is from a social psychology perspective. We know that people are more likely to feel confident, to be more successful financially, and actually to be more engaged when they feel like that they're a part of a community, when they feel like that they're a part of a tribe, for a lack of a better term, or when they feel like that they can collaborate, or when they feel like their voice is heard. So where do you find that at EXP, especially if you're coming in as a solo agent and you're looking for that type of community? We recommend going to EXP Family Tree on Workplace. There's almost 9,000 agents active in there. And there is trainings every single day. There are masterminds and collaborative workspaces and a community where people can ask questions. And there's just so many resources and tools on there, because that entire organization was built on sharing. It was built on collaborating and talking and working things out in a community. So Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, Carrie does a lot of training in there, and these are all live, but they stay in that workspace, so you can go in and rewatch these live streams at your convenience. But the point that I'm trying to make is to find a community where you feel connected and where you can be engaged and have conversations and connect with people and understand what other people are doing. Because, like I said earlier, success leaves clues. So let's find the clues. Let's find the blueprint for how someone is attracting. How are they scripting? All different kinds of tools and resources in there, right, Carrie?
Yeah, and just so you know, EXP Family Tree was also designed to be not about the upline, but more about just community within EXP Realty. So some people don't know if it's like a specific upline. It's not. There are 5, 6 of us that are, uh, large agent attractors that have started this together, none of which are in each other's upline. And so the cool part about that is that it's just 9,000 people from all over the world with really no care of who my upline is. No,
Mm-hmm.
this is just about people that want to collaborate. So you're surrounding yourself with like-minded people, and you don't have to worry that you don't fit in or you're not invited because you're not part of somebody's upline. That's not what this is about. And the other thing I would say about workplace is get engaged in workplace in the areas that you need. I mean, there is so much collaboration, training, community, and some of the KV core, workplace groups. I've got people who have just learned so much, and they're in there on a weekly basis, and they're meeting
Yeah.
people, and they're joining extra outside masterminds, and they're just they're making relationships, not just learning in these groups. The other one that I have a couple of people really successful. And of course, if you are part of the military, that's a huge one to get involved in. Also, Power Girls is a great one. They have chapters all over. And then another one is even just like if you have a niche or want to create a niche in the senior network, what a strong
Mm-hmm.
workplace group. I mean, they do so many trainings and they do so many live streams and they help each other out. They give each other referrals. Look, if you're not Express Offer certified yet and you'd like to, that's another entire community that gives each other suggestions, help, referrals. And so these are communities for you to find your own way. Not that you have to be part of all of them, but everybody has some interests or some things that they'd like to do. And if you haven't really created maybe a focal point in your business yet, this could be a great time to do it. And then go get involved in that or a couple of those workplace groups. I would just really highly encourage it. If you're not doing that, I think you're missing the boat on some of the culture in EXP. And those are just a
Absolutely.
few that I mentioned. There are a lot of other amazing groups, by the way. Those are just a few off the top of my head.
Yeah. And I also want to point out, too, if you're looking specifically for better understanding how to have conversations with people that you're trying to attract, Carrie and I find that Brent Grove actually has a really great weekly mastermind that he does where he talks about different scripts that he's using, what's working, what's not working. So, another great tool or resource to get engaged with, ask questions. But it's about being part of the community. And that's really the first step is to level up those skills around being able to articulate and communicate the value that EXP can bring to your life and to your business. Carrie and I always say that your business grows in direct proportion to how much you're growing. So we want to make sure that you guys are being guided toward the resources and the tools that are going to help you to do that. So, the second thing that you can be doing to level up your skills around attraction is to grow your local community through collaboration, masterminds, and networking. And Carrie is definitely the queen of being able to do this. So, I'm going to let her talk a little bit about this. Carrie, what are you doing, especially with the Cove that you just started in Idaho, which is local? But become um, how can someone really learn how to collaborate and create masterminds and networking in their local community?
Yeah. I heard somebody say the other day, and it's so true. I never really thought about it this way, but this is literally how I started it. And I did this years ago in Minnesota, and then a little bit of a break because I was doing everything online when I was running the expansion team and I started EXP, and then really now starting to help people do this local again. And yes, here in North Idaho, we opened up a co-working space that's also an event kind of training center. So we can do all these trainings here and just opening it up to the community. And I want you guys to open your mind up because networking and collaborating, whether it's inside your same industry or even outside your industry, can be extremely valuable for different reasons. So we're talking about agent attraction. So of course, doing things that bring other real estate professionals together and being that person that is kind of the spearhead of that. That doesn't mean you have to
Mhm.
be the trainer of everything.
Right.
Doesn't mean that you even have to lead any of them. It just means that you're the person that sees that this is an important thing and wants to start getting it going in your local community. And you just start with one person. And that was the idea behind it. Is sometimes we look at people doing these large events and we get overwhelmed because how would we ever do a large event? Well, they didn't start just doing large events. They started by inviting a couple of people and having one person show up and doing a coffee date, but the consistency of that and the continuing of inviting people, and then the one person, they brought a friend, and then you bring a friend, and now there's 4 people, and then everybody brings a friend and there's 8 people. And that's the concept of revenue share. By the way, the compounding effect of revenue share is just one person tells a friend that tells a friend that tells a friend, and pretty soon it's hundreds and hundreds of people, and you have no idea how that happened. But at the end of the day, events are not any different than that, because if you're doing a good job of just bringing some value or bringing people together and creating that space so people can have value from each other, and you're doing it consistently, that's the key. Consistency has to be the key here. Once in a while is probably not going to bring it. But if you do it all the time or regularly, the same time every month or twice a month or whatever you can actually commit to, that's where the key starts to, I think, be, because people are waiting for it. They start getting used to it. They see that you're still doing it. They see it must be bringing value because it's something that's being done every month. And so more and more people are willing to show up after a period of time, after they see it, multiple times in a row. That's just psychology. So what I would say is start with one person. Don't get don't overthink this. You're not going to all of a sudden have an event of 100 people. You have to just first decide that you're the person in your local community that wants to collaborate, that wants to help other people, knowing that you're going to get what you need too if you're helping other people get what they need. And so there's 2 ideas. One is continuing to surround yourself with other real estate professionals in your area. Who cares who their broker affiliation is, but like-minded people that like to help, that like to contribute, that like to mastermind, that are of the same mindset. Get them together for a coffee once a month or a happy hour. Invite some of your vendors, and they don't even need to sponsor it. You don't need to get too overwhelmed. Just, hey, do you want to come and just be part of this conversation, loan officer or title person or inspector, and just start bringing people together in a space where they can just communicate and start to get to know each other. It's really that simple, but you do have to be able to kind of get it out there, market it on social, tell the people that your co-op agents, your friends in real estate, your vendors. So you have to set some time aside for that, but you might only have a couple people the first time. That's okay. The second idea is, what about other small business owners or entrepreneurs in your area? Because they are just like you. They're a small business owner and an entrepreneur, and so are you. So a lot of the struggles that you have building your business, marketing, hiring talent, whatever it is that you're struggling with,
They're likely doing it too. Yeah.
And so guess what, though? They're not your competitors. So they can give you referrals and you can give them referrals. So you can start to look at this as a mastermind of entrepreneurs and small business people helping each other, but it will always turn into a networking event at the same time, because you have opportunities to build relationships, trust each other, and now give business to each other. So it becomes extremely impactful.
And who's doing this really, really well I'm thinking about other networking, collaborative events that I've been to. And the ones that are really successful are the ones who are doing it every single week at the same time, and they're doing it at the exact same location. And it's a location that they don't have to pay for. Maybe they're just making a monthly donation, like a church, for example, might have a space that you can utilize every Thursday morning at 10 o'clock because they're not doing service at that time. Yeah. Or maybe there's so many local coffee shops, downtown that have just a big workspace that you can rent out or do an exchange of service. Like there are so many different opportunities to find space. It doesn't have to be, at like a banquet hall or something. It could be at a local community. And that local community, if they're serving coffee, I mean, of course, people are going to want to go there because they want to have their coffee in the morning. They want to have a snack. And it's actually a great time to recognize that local business too. So lots of opportunity there. The last thing that Carrie and I want to talk about today, the last way that you can level up your skill when attracting, is by bringing value to those who are looking to join a team versus those who don't want to join a team. Understanding the difference between the different models here at EXP. And again, you're leveling up that skill, being able to communicate and talk about it. So Team Building EXP Guide has a great document. So that explore.exprealty.com, in that EXP Guide, they actually have a team building document with like images and different models that you can share with people that you're having these conversations with. And I know, Carrie, you're using that at a very high level. Any other resources or tools that you would recommend specifically to talk about the team models?
Yeah, if you actually go into EXP Family Tree and type in like team or team building, you're probably going to see a couple of live streams I've done with a few people. Randy Reese, who's up in New York City, has done a really great job of kind of a hybrid solution, utilizing the various models within EXP, which I think is brilliant. One of the main reasons I came here was for the team building opportunities, flexibilities, and hybrid options. My husband also created a hybrid option because of the models that we have here at EXP, and it's been, quite frankly, life-changing. So if you understand that, you're going to be able to recruit people to it because it's going to definitely better their business and life. But also maybe it's something that you need to know for your own purposes and you haven't really dug into it and you've just come over to EXP and you've kept everything the same on your team. You might want to continue to do that, but you might not. And so it's good for your own self-education. There's also a couple of those calls that I did with Randy Wooters. So there's a few different Randys that I've done team building live streams.
It's a popular name,
incidentally. And so definitely check those out. All you have to do is just, type in the word Carrie and Randy. Those two will probably pop up. Also, if you go to just to make it easier, some people have a hard time searching in workplace groups for whatever reason. So if that's the case, you can always just go to my YouTube. It's just my name. And there's a lot of revenue share conversations, and you'll see a lot of team building conversations. And so if you are someone that likes to listen and watch versus maybe read those guides, I would suggest doing both and using the team building document because it is super visual and it's very detailed out, but it doesn't have all of the different kind of ways that you could mesh them together or the hybrid options. And so by listening to some of these, it could help kind of put it all together for you. And here's the thing, third-party validation is going to be critical. Who is your upline? If you don't have somebody in your upline that can help you, go into EXP Family Tree. There's many of us that help people all the time, and you'll see who's very active in there as far as people who know the model and can help you. But bringing in somebody who is more experienced in this is really critical. If you go to the gentleman I just mentioned, Randy Wooters, I've used him for many years in terms of just my own education because he's extremely knowledgeable when it comes to the different team building models of EXP. But he has a great website that has a lot of team building tools and resources, and it's just randyexplains.com. These are just a few that I've used. There are a bazillion out there that are really, really good. You can literally go into workplace and you can start searching in different groups like team building, and you're going to just see tons and tons of resources. The bottom line, though, is that if you don't know yourself, you're never going to be able to explain it to somebody else. And the more you know, the more that you're going to be able to share with like conviction and passion and excitement and energy because you actually believe in it. If we're just trying to get a few little facts and then go out there and talk to everybody about that, it's pretty obvious to people that you're just telling them something that is, but you're not really bringing an emotion or a feeling or an energy to it that is like, this really works. I know people that are using this model. And one of the things that has helped me, and I'll end here, is when I first joined EXP, I had a very good indication of how I would work in this model because of my background in team building and expansion. However, I still didn't know everything. And so one of the things that I committed to is to being on a lot of calls a lot of the time so I could hear the stories of other people. And so that's how I met a lot of the people I'm actually naming to you in this call today. None of them are in my upline. I just met them because I heard them speaking about this, or somebody recommended, or they were in another live stream. And I just made the effort to reach out because I liked what they were talking about and I wanted to educate myself. So you do have to commit some time to learning and being engaged and being involved if you really want to be good at something. If you say that you want to have 200 people in the next year in your downline, you have to do something different to get the 200 people in your downline. You
Right.
can't just do what you're doing today. You have to educate yourself. You have to spend a little extra time. You have to time block for it. You have to make it a priority. And for those of you that think you can't do it while you still sell real estate, that is just a limiting belief, because there are plenty of people. And if you watch a lot of my YouTube channels, videos that are about revenue share, you will see that most of them, like 99% of them, were selling real estate while they did this. And also, it took about 5 or 6 years for them to see the fruits of all of their labor. But I'm telling you, 5 or 6 years later, they are reaping some major, major rewards. And so they had the faith over a period of 5 years to continue to work those priorities in a way that made sense for their business and life, and it panned out for them. But if we never get into that rhythm, we'll never have that time when that 5 or 6 years comes for us. And so if it's important to you, you'll make the time. If it's not, you won't. But there is a lot of resources, a lot of training, a lot of great groups and people that are sharing all the time within EXP. So you've just got to find your place and make sure you're doing it every week.
Well, and that's just that's the key to it. So from an operations perspective, because I feel like I have to bring this,
Yes.
to our attention every week because I am doing operations. We have to also, the easiest way for you guys to do this is to create a system and a process that's scalable and repeatable every single week. So you're time blocking in your calendar, and making sure that every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever it is, you have these masterminds that you're attending. They're in your calendar. You're attending, Brent Grove's mastermind or any of Carrie's masterminds that she's doing. You have our Level Up series on your calendar. So all you have to do is see, okay, every single Monday at 8:30, we're tuning into Level Up Mastery Monday. The link is already there, or you know to go to Workplace and you're going to live stream it for yourself or for your team. But it's time blocked. It's in your calendar, which means that it's real. It's there. You're holding yourself accountable to showing up. Additionally, when it comes to the scripts or the conversations that you're having, I would recommend having templates in your email where you have these links. You can attach the different guides, the EXP guide or the team models or whatever other resources that you're going to use. Use the same exact template every single time in your email. After you have a conversation with somebody, you're following up with an email, a text, and a video, you guys, letting them know how important this conversation is to you, how much you appreciate them taking the time to learn about EXP or to, like Carrie said, hear your story, because we all know how impactful stories can be, because the story creates the state of mind. Our state of mind then helps to impact the decision that we're going to make. So create a repeatable and scalable process when we're talking about leveling up our skills for attraction. How many people are you calling or reaching out to every day? This is going to help hold you accountable.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And if you don't call anybody, then you just need to invite people to an event. So you have to decide to do something. And
Yes,
today,
do
after
something.
this call, I hope you'll just decide something. Indecision is, going to be the thing that holds you back in all areas. And so just decide, am I going to call co-op agents? Am I going to call agents in my area? Am I going to do an event every month or twice a month? What is the thing I'm going to do? And then I'm going to totally commit to it. And as Haley said, it's going to be
and
my
take action.
calendar.
Take
And I'm
action.
going to do it.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. So you guys, up next, we have live scripting workshop with Jacob Barnhill. Again, we're talking about scripting, you guys. This is a great one you want to tune into. Make sure you're taking notes and rewatch the live stream so you get these scripts in hand and you're implementing them into your conversations.
Awesome. Have a great
All
week,
right.
you guys.
Thanks, guys. See you next week.
Hey, what's up, guys? So today we're going to be doing some live scripting. If you guys have been watching the sessions that we've been doing, I believe this is my 6th or 7th time, maybe 6 times. And we've done stalls, we've done objections, we've done openers, we've done so many different types of things that you need when you're scripting. So what I'm actually going to go over today, because we've covered so much of the fundamental, the material, we've done voicemails, we've done how to implement stories into your scripts, right? I'm going to kind of bring it all together today with some tips and then a couple word track bonuses that you guys can take with you. As well as one other bonus I'm going to share with you guys today is if anybody has ever had any lead ghost them, right? Or if you could use these same scripts for recruiting too, the same framework that we're teaching. If anybody's ever had anybody ghost them, we have a script that you guys can use for anything when expectations do not align or people are ghosting you. It's really one of the easiest scripts that you can use. So if you guys are ready for some scripts today, go to the comment section, go to the chat session, wherever you guys are at, give us a thumbs up, give us a oh yeah. If you're on Facebook, maybe this is live streaming to Facebook, hit the like button. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen, and then we are going to get started. So hopefully everybody is ready for some cool stuff here. The first thing that I want to go over is some of the tips on communication. So one of the things that I teach, we actually have script practice that we do, and I've actually started opening that up if anybody does want to reach out to me on the side and do some script practice with our team where we're using these same fundamentals, and I can share these tools with you guys. Just go find me on Facebook or whatever. But so let's talk about some tips on communication first, and then I want to show you guys some examples here. So the very first thing, this one's really, really obvious, but building rapport. There's a sales process that's actually in 4 steps that I talk to my team about all the time. And it's 4 steps. The first one is that there has to be trust in the sales process, right? Without trust, building rapport, or you could call it friending someone, right? If we do not have this, we cannot do anything else, right? Then the other parts are there has to be a need, then there has to be shared value, and then there has to be a question. We need to ask for the business, ask for the next step. So that's our 4-part sales process. So you got to build rapport. You want to build rapport when? When do you guys think you would want to build rapport? This could seem really obvious. Again, there's actually no wrong answer. You want to build rapport when you first are on a call, when you're going to a consultation, when you're on a lengthy call, maybe with someone. And it's always, you want to always build rapport, right? But you definitely don't want to start talking or pitching or telling them things before you have attempted to get into rapport. It's very, very important, which is why this is number 1 on tips on communication. You shouldn't be doing anything until you're building rapport with that person, right? So what could that look like? Building rapport on the phone could look like, hey, acknowledging something that they said, right? And maybe validating them for their decision, for calling your sign, for wanting to go look at a home, for whatever. And then you get into some motivating questions and you start to learn about their family and you're relating on that, right? Before you start getting to questions like, are you pre-qualified? Or you're getting to questions like, do you guys have one to sell? What's your payoff? You know, like you're going to have a lot more ease into tougher questions and things like that when you're actually building rapport first, but you want to do it always throughout the relationship. So smile. Can you guys hear how it sounds when I'm smiling, as I'm saying smiling, right? So there's a lot of good energy that could come through the phone when you're actually smiling, right? This is phone etiquette 101, where there's lots of trainings out there that'll teach you to enunciate your words, right, to make sure that you have this crisp sound that's coming through. And another thing that can really be pleasant and feel good as far as the energy that you're delivering over the phone is to actually smile while you're talking to them. They can feel that. I read somewhere recently that 70% of communication is actually nonverbal. And when we're on the phone, we don't have that helping us. So we have to use these different tools with tone and pitch and pace and smiling and actually delivering energy and in our communication a little bit differently. So there you go. We just talked about that. Energy sells. Have you guys ever had a salesperson call you and they're trying to sell you some insurance and they're just about as dull as, flat paint? You know what I mean? It's just dull. We want to have energy when we're talking to them. One good way that you can have energy when you're on the phone is to actually stand up, open your diaphragm, right? Open this your chest cavity up so you're actually being able to deliver more energy. Another thing that I'll teach my guys to do is when they're standing up, do power poses. Don't be slumped over trying to make your calls like this, right? Have power in your stance, and that's actually going to help deliver energy when you're talking to someone, right? And we don't need to be super excitable like we just had 10 cups of coffee, right? Like me today, right? We don't want to have that energy where we're just steamrolling the conversation. This is just positive, good energy, right? Where we're delivering energy over the phone. We're not dull, we're not monotone, you know. We want to have some energy. We want to be exciting. That's going to attract good things in the conversation. So you want to be confident. Always be, progressing the conversation, even if you don't have the answers, but I'm confident I can go figure it out, right? I'm confident that, hey, even if you're annoyed with my call today, please don't mistake that this is something that this is my how I'm going to deliver this when I come, and actually am your agent and you hire me, right? Having that level of confidence, right? And not necessarily being arrogant. There's a difference, right? Being confident that you can help them, right? So have confidence in your abilities. Use their name often. You guys have probably heard that's the sweetest sound in any language is actually someone's name to them, right? So using their name often, and sometimes even when you have different names that you're not familiar with, it's really a polite way to start building rapport and ask someone, is this how you say your name? Would you like me to call you Mike or Michael, or which one do you prefer, right? So find commonality. Finding commonality is really important. This goes back to building rapport. And if anybody's ever heard of the FORD acronym to be able to do this, so that's family, occupation, recreation, and dreams, right? What do they like to do in those four categories? You may not get those on one phone call. I've taught before, just make it a goal as you're getting permission to follow up with someone, right? Every time you call them, make it a goal to actually go into one of these items, right? First call, I'm going to try to talk about family, right? How big is their family for the house that they're trying to buy? Then the next time I follow up with them, right? If it's not right now, or the next time I meet them, what's their occupation? What do they do for work, right? So recreation, dreams, family, occupation, recreation, dreams. Asking great questions. I can't tell you how important this is. This is probably the number one thing that people have when they come around some of our material and what they learn on our team is that they learn what asking great questions is, right? Asking great questions looks like we're not asking questions about, well, how big's the house, and what school district do you want, and we just have questions that are here and there and all over the place. I call that skipping rocks, rather than drilling down, which is what this material teaches you with the only scripts that you'll ever need, right? Is great digging questions that go deep on what has you interested in those schools, what does good schools need to look like, right? And we're going deep, 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 drilling on the story behind the story behind the story on what it is that they actually want. So asking great questions. Said another way, does the puzzle fit, right? A lot of things that they're trying to do, right? And I want to make sure that I have a clear picture kind of in my head about what it is exactly that they're trying to do. So questions that make sense, right? I want to ask great questions. A lot of times when I've run my pre-qualifier setting appointments with sellers specifically, I get done with that questionnaire and I ask people, hey, is there anything else that you can think of that I haven't covered yet that's important to you before I come out and we meet? And they say, no, I think you covered it all. Actually, we've talked to a couple other agents and they didn't ask any of these questions? I think you covered it all. And they're like excited about it. They're like, wow, this guy has a process. So ask great questions. Use upswings. We just talked about this one. Would it sound a lot better if I just was monotone and flat and I just talked to you like this? Or does it sound more interesting when we use upswings, downswings, pauses, and the different tones, right? A tone could be something curious. If you're curious, right, you could be the curious man or woman and come across with a different tone trying to get engagement or find out some more information, right? You could also use an upswing with that as well with a statement. Downswing sometimes can be used when you want someone to make a decision, right? And a lot of times pauses can help you create more impact around something, but it can also be used as a powerful negotiating tool. If anybody's ever heard of the power of the pause, right? Like when someone asks you what your commission is, or if you're trying to buy an investment property at a certain price, you know what I mean? And giving that price and then pausing and not talking yourself out of a deal. There can be a lot of power in pauses too. You want to control the conversation with questions, right? Control the conversation with questions. What it should feel like is that they have gone down a path, whether you're on the phone or at the consultation. It should feel like the whole time it was this pleasant experience where they were sharing what was important to them and they were allowed to talk and share exactly what they wanted, and that should feel really good to them. But the whole time you were leading them down that path, and it didn't feel forced, and they weren't really uh uh they didn't really know that that was happening, right? But it was a pleasant experience and they felt like they could share and talk about them the majority of the time. And we can do that when we control with questions, right? What this doesn't look like is when someone asks you something like, what's your commission, right? Or let's use the example, um, uh, you know, yeah, let's use commissions, right? So if it's commissions that somebody's asking you about, right? Maybe you do power of the pause. We charge 6%, right? But what if I ask, we charge 6%? Does that sound something that'd be okay with you? I'm not talking, rambling on, right? But I'm controlling the conversation and I'm asking them to make a decision every time that I'm getting them to say something. Sometimes people will just barrage you with questions and then they're in control when that table starts to turn that way, right? And we're just giving them an answer to something. I see a lot of new agents do this and then they just wait for some type of acknowledgement from them and then they have space to ask another question and just keep drilling us on some stuff, right? So if you're not the one asking questions, you're not in control of the conversation. Choose your words wisely. One of my very first trainers at my first brokerage, I loved the way that she came in and she would say, we don't want to say, it stinks like a dog in the house, right? She would say puppy smell, right? And she would be very aware and specific in the words that she would choose. So here's some other examples: is using property or using house rather instead of property. So property, I might use that if I'm talking to more investors, right? A lot of times it may be a home or a house. If we're talking to a client, there could be a lot of sentiment around the home. And if we're calling it a property, that may not come across very well. So be careful in the words that you choose. But instead of but, you could use however. Or you could, instead of but, use and. Or instead, you could most times just not use anything at all. Just remove the but and just say what you were going to say without that statement, right? A lot of times when we use but, it's going to demean what is about to be said or what they said. So be careful using the word but. Use and or however or eliminate. Another one is why. A lot of times why can be very accusational, right? Like when your wife or your husband asks you, why didn't we do the dishes? Or why didn't you put the dishes in the dishwasher, right? And then you feel like you have to protect, why you didn't do it, right? Instead of using why, what has you thinking that way? What had you not loading the dishwasher, right? That can come across a little bit different where it's not so accusational, right? Where their guard starts to go up. So be careful, choose your words wisely. Slowing down. People can tell a lot of times if you were to listen to, a lot of newer phone prospectors, newer agents in consultations, you can tell when they're nervous. You can tell when a salesperson's that's potentially new, nervous. And a lot of times they're speaking really fast and their Adam's apple is way up here, right? Take a second and do a check before you get on the phone and see what your heart rate is doing, right? Where's your breath? Is it shallow? Where's your Adam's apple? Do a little check before you get on the phone. Are your shoulders back? Are you in a power position? Is your mind, racing? And are you nervous? Are you sweating? Maybe you just need to take a minute, drop the Adam's apple down, take a breath, right? Put the shoulders back, just like mom and dad taught you. Stand up straight, put your shoulders back, put your head on top of your shoulders, and just slow down. If you're talking to someone, you notice that you're speeding up. A lot of times you want to slow. If you notice it mid conversation, just slow down and help yourself have a more meaningful conversation, be present and help the person out. You can also slow down to mirror and match. Sometimes I've talked to people who are 90 years old that were looking to sell their home, and I have to slow a lot more down, right? I don't want to be awkwardly mirroring and matching exactly what they're doing and talking like they might talk, right? But I could use some words that they use, specific words that they use, either, if they're using, we're motivated to move or we want to move. It's simple as that. I could use, okay, you want to move, right? And using their words. People are going to notice and pick up on these little things. Even if you're in person, sometimes mirror and matching them. If they cross their arms, you could cross your arms, right? And you want to do it with, I heard this tip recently, and you don't want to make it super awkward, especially if it's not something that you would normally do. But maybe it would be this. Maybe you don't cross your legs, but maybe you're just putting your legs together a little bit more, crossing your ankles instead, right? So within what you would normally do, and I like that tip that I heard recently. So mirror and matching people is going to make you feel more like them because you use words like them, you sound like them, right? We don't need to do this in an awkward fashion, but within the realm of what you would normally do, you still want to be your own unique individual, but you're going to sound similar to them and they're going to like that, right? That's going to help you in the friend department as you're building rapport. You want to bring value. Nobody likes the follow-up or the calls where they're trying to force things down on you, right? Nobody likes that. They just call. It's laughable sometimes when you get these calls from these, people trying to sell you insurance and they just go right into their pitch, right? And I don't care a lot of times, right? But it's laughable that they never even asked anything about what was important to me. If I had, been thinking about, changing insurance, or would I be open? No, none of that stuff, right? They just go right into their pitch. We haven't even tried to build rapport on the phone. Or another example would be, are you the agent that's following up with someone just to follow up with them? For example, every time you follow up with the prospect, are you, hey, this is me again, wanted to follow up. Hey, this is me again, I was just following up. Hey, I'm calling again, following up. Whether they pick up or you're just shooting this on text or voicemails, if you're the agent that's just following up to follow up, you're commoditizing yourself and they're not bringing any value. What if instead you brought value where you said, hey, I saw a lender talk about some things that are changing with interest rates recently, and I thought of you. Here's an article, right? I just recorded a video last week, and it was about preparing your home. I remember you guys wanted to sell this summer and I made this video and I actually thought of you. Here it is, right? What if you were doing that when you followed up and it was specific to pain points, problems, bring value to your people that you are in contact with as you're following up? Own the relationship. What does that mean? Well, we want to friend them, right? We want to come across bringing value. We're knowledgeable. We want them to remember us. Really, that's the number one thing, right? We want them to remember us. And part of owning the relationship, what if you were friends with them on Facebook and you noticed they had a baby and you had their physical address in your CRM? Well, it would probably be a good idea to send them a card, right? And this isn't some big fancy mail campaign that you have to put on for everybody. This is a total slow down manual mode of owning the relationship. Maybe there's a pop by that's in order depending on the relationship, right? And this could look different. Maybe you're not pop by. Maybe you don't have the money to send out mail on a consistent basis every time you see someone have something to celebrate. But maybe it's a text, right? Maybe it's an email. Maybe it's something special. I don't know. But there's lots of ways to own the relationship that you're trying to build. So own the relationship. Be naturally curious. And this goes back to asking great questions, but a curious salesperson that asks great questions is going to build a lot of value and a lot of rapport with their prospect, with their clients, right? So being naturally curious where you want to understand so that you can help. You want to understand what their very specific goals are so that you can sell them something very specific that's actually going to solve a specific problem to them, not some canned approach for your phone prospect or your consultation efforts, right? So being naturally curious. Then always ask. This is the final step of the sales process that I was talking to you guys about. There's always a next step, even after the sale, 2 weeks after they've moved in, right? When you're talking to them initially on the phone, there's always a next step. So I call it painting the picture. What's the picture going to look like when they hire you, before they hire you, right? Paint that picture and then actually ask for the next step. Ask for the business. Ask for them to meet with you after an open house. Ask for them to, can I follow up with you if it's not right now? Does it make sense to for a consultation, right? You want to always ask for the next step and paint what that picture is going to look like. Ask for the business. Ask the next step. Know their motivation. If you know their motivation and you get them to verbalize it to you, all the questions that we ask should lead to, as soon as possible, the motivating question. Moving's a lot of work. What has you thinking of moving? That should be the number one question. As soon as possible, you can build rapport and friend them around that, but getting them to verbalize what their motivation, their dream, their desires are on why they're wanting to make this move and sell their home or buy a home or both, right? You're going to hold a lot more power than the agent that doesn't have that, right? Knowing their motivation can help you sell to specific needs, right? Motivation is so important. That's another way that you might be following up to follow up. If you have a lot of people you're following up with and you don't know why they are wanting to make a move, you might want to go ask that using the right word, right? What has you thinking of moving instead of the why? But if you don't know their why, right? You probably have a lot of people in your follow-up that we should go ask some of the motivating question to. I would highly recommend it. So know their motivation. Being brief is really powerful. A lot of times we're on the phones and, we see that, hey, we're just rambling on and on and on and on. And some of us maybe can see it, but then we can't control it, right? There's a lot of power in just being brief where we're just, they ask a question and then you give a very brief and powerful answer, right? So some of us just need to be more brief. So Framing. Framing comes into play when we have a question maybe that's going to be hard to ask, right? For example, I see a lot of people not wanting to ask what the payoff of the home is. And I might lead with a frame to that question where I ask like, hey, so that we can do a net sheet and I make sure that it makes sense to sell, what is your payoff? So it doesn't matter what it is. It could just be any sort of reason why I would ask that question. I want to frame questions. Pattern interrupts are very powerful. A lot of times people might call for expired calls is the number one thing that I can think of is when people are like, oh my God, I'm getting like 40 calls today. You know what I mean? And then you go, oh my God, that's crazy. There's only like 40 of us that are doing our jobs, right? And you could just match their energy on stuff. Pattern interrupts. You know, if somebody's rambling on, you say, hey, really quick, that's a pattern interrupt, right? Pattern interrupts can be very powerful as well. Cool. So I'm getting my 5-minute warning. I want to give you guys one of the tips that when expectations don't align. So what I want you guys to take away from this is if somebody you're following up with is not responding to you any longer, this is one of the scripts that I teach my team that will help assist getting them to respond to you. So when actions don't align, right? Let's say that they were going to fill out the link for the lender's loan questionnaire, or they were going to get back to you on your rescheduling. So when actions don't align, right? And they're just not responding to you anymore. If you have their motivation, right, or something that they were interested in, you want to use that in. You said you wanted to blank. What is that motivation? Wanted to move for, or you wanted to go look at the home, whatever that is. Hey, John, I remember you said you wanted to blank. I'm noticing, describe the behavior. You don't want to make them feel bad about it in a bad way, but you are going to kind of politely make them feel bad about it. I'm noticing, so you want to describe the behavior. I'm noticing I haven't heard from you yet. Then talk to me about what's going on or tell me what's up, right? And you want to use that in a very nice way, right? So you got to be careful the way you ask this, but you can get people to respond a lot more with that script that sounds pretty much like this. Jane, I remember you said you wanted to make a move. You found the right home and was going to speak to John to figure out a good time to meet. I'm noticing I haven't heard from you yet. Share with me what's going on, right? You can use this on the phone, voicemail, text, email, doesn't matter. So hopefully you guys got some great value out of the only scripts that you'll ever need. We've got a bunch of great stuff that we've done in the past. Right now I've got to introduce Brian Salem, who is up next. And he is going to be going over the 3 P's of mindset. Reach out to me if you guys want to do scripts and enjoy Brian. Thanks, everybody.
Welcome to part 2 of 2. We're talking about how a holistic approach to wellness can affect your mindset to help you catapult your success in real estate. Brian Salem coming here from Cleveland, Ohio. And I love this city. I've now lived here more than where I grew up. So I call this home, and I'm grateful to be part and love being a part of Cleveland. So if you haven't seen, I invite you to go back and watch part 1. Part 1 is where we talked about mindset in the 3 areas of a kind of holistic approach to wellness and what impact that has not only on your real estate career, but just your life in general, and the impact that can have on you moving forward, with your life journey. And that was your physical, nutritional, and mental health, and why it's just important to feel your best so you could show up as your best. So part 2, now we're going to switch and talk about the get up of the get up, dress up, show up, and remind those. So in 2009, I got my license in 2002. It was a solo agent, had a couple of 2 assistants, was finding some success, and I was having a lot of newer agents come up to me. And this was before teams were a thing, in our market at least. So I didn't even start the Salem team till 2009. And it really was a product in the brokers that were here. We didn't have a lot of franchises, and certainly EXP wasn't around our market then. But a lot of new agents were coming to me and saying, what are you doing? What's your secret? And I never really had thought about that. Never really was asked that. I just was sort of, had kind of I guess a habit and routine growing up. And I did work a corporate job for a year, maybe helped sort of a little bit of the discipline of treating this as a career, right? And as a business, which I do think is a big sort of mistake that a lot of new agents get in. But when I really sat down to kind of reflect on that question, I was like, well, look, I mean, I get up every day. I dress up every day. I'm coming to a job, a career, and I show up every day. But it was at the time kind of surface level. I would just get my ass out of bed and I would just go do the work. Growing up at private schools and having worked at a corporate law firm, just dressing up was just sort of again natural sort of habit. But there is something to be said about when you do sort of like get dressed up, like how that makes you feel. But for me, it was more about, look, I mean, you're in charge of tens, hundreds, in some markets, millions of dollars, right, of people's money, and what will be, for most, one of their biggest life-changing decisions. And you not only got to act like that, you got to dress like you're the highly paid professional, that you are. So, and then the show up, again, surface level, go back to part one. That's where we talked about showing up as your best version and why that's important and how that's going to impact you and your life and your business to be, see high levels of success. So let's talk about part two here now, dig a little bit deeper. And that's going to be this. Purpose, passion, and plan. I call them the 3 Ps. Now, when I started my real estate team in 2009, this is something that I did take and understood early on. Again, but it was really more for myself. It wasn't really kind of teaching or giving or mentoring or like others at the time, prior to 2009, which is, what is your why? And I know that sort of phrase gets overused. And when I sort of first looked at, well, what is my why? I really was, again, surface level. I just didn't have the mental capacity. Maybe I was just sort of too young and ignorant. Didn't take it, maybe that piece is serious, but I did understand a why, right? And what sort of got me up and sort of, what makes you tick. But what I've discovered in sort of starting a team and really starting to educate, mentor, guide, younger agents. And now I've kind of started and rebuilt several teams. And we love, the new agents when they, come aboard to just sort of teach them the industry and the profession. And what it means to be, again, a real estate professional, a realtor, and how to hold yourself not only accountable, but to the high standards that our profession deserves. And I think needs to do certainly a little bit better job, but that's not what we're here to talk about. So the why, what I will ask you watching to do is you're going to answer, well, what's your why? And then I would, encourage you and suggest that you ask yourself 2 more times, right? Go 3 layers deep on that same question. What's your why, right? A lot of what I get from new agents is money, time, freedom. And although those are good, that really doesn't answer the question. And that's not a bad why. There's no bad or good. It's everyone's why is what they are. But to truly understand, again, your sort of like purpose is to ask yourself 3 times. So why do you want to make a lot of money? What is that money going to then do for you? What is that money going to do for others? Okay. Family, I want to be able to support, my family. I want to be able to give back to the community. Whatever your why is, when you start asking several layers deep, you're going to really self-discover and have that aha moment. So I really encourage you to sit down and kind of understand and map that out and write it down. Now, when you're kind of doing that, you're going to sort of kind of I guess also discover what sort of your passion is. Now, the passion could be helping people find their homes. That's obviously what we all do for a living. Your passion could be, and I would, encourage you to think at a much higher level when you're thinking about that passion. because it is going to be all about others and the relationship that you have with others. That matters in the end, whenever the end is. That's what's going to matter the most. And the impact that you can have on others' lives, both in and out of real estate, that's going to be the legacy that, you know, I want you to have, and what I want you to think about. So what I ask is that you kind of look and define like who you are and what kind of agent you want to be. I think a lot of times, you know, agents kind of get into this and they look at it more transactional, right? It's about the sale, it's about the commission, it's about getting paid. And it's hard not to think about that. And that is, if you can get through that hurdle, not only when you're a new agent, but, you know, our industry does have a little bit of, you know, ups and downs, seasonal markets and stuff like that. But when you can kind of get grounded and get rooted, you know, again, not only in your why and sort of your kind of purpose of why you're doing this, and you know, dig deep into that passion, you're going to find, again, something that's going to switch in your mind, and that's going to become relational. You know, when you can work with clients and understand that it is about the relationship and not about the transaction, that is going to have an immense impact, right, on your success in real estate. It's going to lead to, one, it's just going to be a lot more fun. You're going to get a lot more referrals, and you're just going to have a lot bigger impact and a lot bigger footprint in your market if you can really kind of understand that it is about the other side and it is about that relationship that you have with them. And that's just going to lead to bigger and greater things beyond that. So again, what gets you up? What motivates you? And why are you doing what you're doing? So write those questions down, understand kind of what your long-term goal is, and kind of have that sort of vision. But then you really got to understand and break that down short-term as well. And here's the thing, your why is going to change. You know, mine has changed 3 times, you know, over the course. Because when I was new to this, it was certainly about muddy and the motivation of, you know, I didn't know anyone in this market and didn't have any money. So that was kind of that wall. That was kind of that why. And so I became, I say unfortunately, but I became very robotic, and I was very disciplined, but, you know, I wasn't necessarily having the most fun doing it. I was not able to kind of hold down relationships while I was doing that. And again, I wish I could have learned some of this, you know, early on, and hopefully this will have some impact if you're watching it and understanding that now and what that, you know, will mean for you and for your career. So why did you choose real estate? What drives you? What gets you out of bed? When you can kind of put all those pieces together on a much deeper level, you know, that's where I kind of got that mantra of, you know, get up, dress up, show up, and understanding the both pieces and both parts to these, you know, part 1 being mindset, part 2 being your purpose and why. Trust me, it's going to have an immense impact on your mindset and how it's going to be able to catapult you to high level success in and out of real estate. So thank you everyone for joining.